Hey everybody, it's Friday. That means it's time for viewers' comments. Let's get right to it.
Hey Glenn, episode 150 is coming. Maybe one more The Best of VC compilation?
That's a great question, but I've actually got a better idea. I've come to Toman's Gearhead University, and I thought I'd ask my friends your questions. Let's check it out.
Hi Glenn, what do you think about Misha Mansour said in his interview with Rick Beato about Periphery not having an impact in his economy and that he needs an income outside of the band? Do you think that full-time musicians won't be able to make a living out of music?
Fuck you, Glenn. First of all, the intention of making music should never be, I want to be rich. Wrong, people. Passion and the love for music and actually being able to do what you do should be always the first point why you start playing an instrument or why you start singing and not copying the mic. And to make a living as a musician is harder these days, I believe, honestly. But here in the beautiful Bavaria, you can probably make a great living by playing trumpet, tuba, and playing that Bavarian. And that's it. If you choose to be more like art metal and not so mainstream music, it could be difficult, but you should try it anyway.
Hey Glenn, how do you deal with a bass player who pigeonholes themselves on finding the right tone? Although he's a good bass player, almost every rehearsal he's adjusting his bass settings and not getting well with the guitar mix because he tweaked it too much.
What? I mean, is that a question? What? I don't understand. The best setting for any bass player, I think, is the mute button, and it's right there on the amp, and all you have to do is press it, and you'll sound absolutely amazing. The tone, incredible. What do you think? What do you think of that?
Howdy Glenn, love your vids. My band gets a lot of fake record labels and music distributors trying to scam us. All of them are foreign and want the same thing. Just send us a $350 on a check a month and your credit card numbers and we promise your sales will go through the roof. What are your thoughts on dealing with these assholes? Thanks!
And when it comes to these particular breed of assholes, it's my personal hobby just to waste their time. Like, keep them going, keep asking them questions. If they're spending time with you and you're having a laugh, then they're not spending time with other people. So that's what I like to do anyways. And then when you're done, say, you know what, I think my good buddy would like to invest in this, and you prank your friends by referring them over to those guys.
Hey, I'm a fan of your advice and videos, and I would like to ask what you think about the future of metal and what we should do to revive metal. Keep up the good work.
Revival of metal. Dude, I literally have no idea. Pass. Can I get a different question?
It's popular everywhere because the internet's a thing. It doesn't need reviving at all. Problem solved.
Hey Glenn, I've been working hard on promoting my new EP, but I have hit a wall. Can tell me easy ways to promote effectively.
The number one thing you're going to want to do in order to promote your EP is get a publicist, if you possibly can, who works in your genre, who works with bands that you know and like that are playing the same kind of music as you and doing well. Okay, because it's okay to be the smaller band on a bigger roster. They're usually tiered systems, so you can pay a smaller amount, and the publicists will use their bigger bands as leverage to get you on different kinds of publications such as Gear Gods or Metal Sucks, Metal Injection if you're doing metal, or whatever for your genre. So that's definitely what you're going to want to do. Spend more money on your publicity than you do making your record, okay? Don't spend 10 grand making your album and then have $100 to promote it. That's a terrible idea.
What's with the stigma of a bass player using a pick? I'm currently trying to learn to play bass with my fingers, but why all the hate towards those who use a pick?
So the thing about playing bass is it doesn't matter if you use a pick or your fingers. I'm primarily a pick player just because that's what's more comfortable for me, and that's what just feels better and sounds better to me. I think a lot of people have the stigma against picks just because traditionally bass players don't use picks. They just use their fingers no matter what. But we all can't be the masters of just using all 4 fingers extra on top of it too. But at the same time, it's just what works for me. And at the same time, if you're judging someone for not playing the way that you play or that you like, fuck you.
Hey Glenn, I've been recording metal guitars in my home studio for over 20 years. One problem that I still struggle with is that as soon as I hit the record button, my inner critic becomes hyperactive, and I find that only one part of my brain is critiquing the take while the rest of me is trying to play it. This usually results in mistakes because playing something perfectly requires my full mental bandwidth. I tried reading The Inner Game of Music as it addresses this problem, but it didn't gel with me. If you have any suggestions for getting into the right mindset to lay down guitar tracks and shutting down the meta-narrative, I would appreciate hearing your thoughts.
So I think that's a problem that we all still struggle with. I don't think I know one guitar player, huge or, just starting out that doesn't have that inner critic constantly going. For me personally, when I'm recording guitar parts, if I'm like in that mindset of like, why am I doing this? This sucks. Or I keep tracking things incorrectly or not how I like it, I just honestly keep doing it. Like I'll track for like 2 hours straight if I can. And like eventually I think that thing just gets exhausted and it gives up. And then like I can finally just do the thing I was trying to do. So I think it's a matter of just like pushing through that wall of like, fuck, like I can't do this sucks. Like eventually that, like you won't even have the energy to do that if you just keep making yourself do it forever. Even if you have to like stop and wake up tomorrow and try to do it again, like you can break down that wall, and once you do, you can do it over and over and over again. So yeah, just keep doing it.
Hi Glenn, I'm a drummer and I live in England. I've reached a point where I want to quit my band. We usually play in dead pubs and get about 50 pounds, paid between 3 of us, and that all goes on travel expenses and recording fund. My guitarist and vocalist is at a university a couple of hours away, and my bassist has full-time work. We played the same set for 6 months and haven't practiced for the same time. Am I being a dick for quitting and wanting to improve my own musical career?
No, you're not a dick for wanting to move on, and if you're wanting to push it and they're not, don't ever be held back by people who are just not going to move forward. They've got their own commitments, and it's all about that. Life is about commitments. If they've made a commitment to other things, let them do that. But you have the potential to move on and go do something else. It doesn't make you a dick, and maybe they're your friends, but find a way to do it without falling out with them. But if you can't, fuck those guys.
What audio software do you recommend?
Well, audio editors,
Speak up.
I don't know. Well, whatever feels comfortable for you.
Hey, Pete.
Use that shit.
Cubase. I use Cubase 6, but the later versions are just as good. It can be good, but it can be a pain in the ass as well. It crashes all the time, but I love it.
Hey Glenn, how do you deal with bandmates who want writing credit on a song they didn't write at all? Thanks Glenn for all the great videos.
Well, the way that I used to deal with it is go to court, get sued, go to court, lose, and then you have to give them writing credit in alphabetical order by last name, which puts them first and you last, and you were ordered to do that. I mean, that's how you deal with that. You lose, and you suck it up, and you cry and you sleep. If you don't have any money, and it's just between you guys, one should actually Google what writing a song is. You can't take a word like that beast of burden, and say, nah, let's just kill the that, and it's just the beast of burden. And that's not writing credit, even though I was told by a judge that it is. But it's not. So Google what writing a song is and what the rules are, and then discuss that amongst a group of friends with a coffee.
I hate Music is Win channel.
You hate my channel. I don't know what to tell you other than if only you had a channel to hate. And you know what? Even if you did have a channel and I hated it, I wouldn't know who you are because I only care about myself. But if you hate my channel so much, what are you doing watching? Are you that obsessed with me that you can't stop looking at my fat head? It's really a question of your weird obsession with me than my terrible channel.
Hey Glenn, what do you think about the whole pay-to-play deal? The 2 useless members of my band, the drums and bass, are in another band that recently opened for Norma Jean. They couldn't sell enough tickets and ended up having to pay the venue back $290. I understand the venue has got to pay to book the touring acts, but it's a little unfair to struggling local bands trying to make a name for themselves, in my opinion. It's hard when the band doesn't already have a big enough following and the show is a couple of towns over. People are way too cheap to travel nowadays. I mean, maybe the venue shouldn't book the tour, then they know they can't afford it. Maybe I'm missing something somewhere. Just curious on your thoughts.
That's a great question. I like to think that a lot of the venues do you have to put yourself on both sides of the situation. You have to put yourself in the eyes of the venue, the promoter, and the eyes of being in the band. And I think a lot of bands take the promotion side of themselves for granted these days. They use social media as a crutch rather than something to help them branch out their brand. So what I would suggest is obviously, old school style of putting yourself out there, promote your band, get yourself out there. And that's something I think a lot of people forget. And, the pay-for-play thing does suck, but if you look at an account, a lot of bands these days, they talk a lot and how they have these huge followings, but you go to their show and nobody's there. So venues have been burnt so many times, so they kind of have to do that. So I think it's a good way for bands to kind of earn their keep. And once you get to a certain point, trust me, you can negotiate to not have to do any pay-for-play ever again.
I need some advice from my band. Our drummer has ADHD and can't sit still to play one song. He's been our friend since grade school, and we don't want to let him go. We have him 6 months to learn 3 songs, and he hasn't gotten any of them. Any advice? Cheers from bumfuck nowhere, North Carolina.
What's up, dude? I actually had a very similar situation. It was not a drummer, it was a singer. He actually suffered from the same condition among other conditions, and we just had to make a decision. He was a very talented singer, but he was a real aggravation to work with. And at some point, we just had to make the decision whether we were going to keep him around or not, just because of his inability to work in a group. And as talented as he was as an individual, you really need him to be able to work in a group situation. And I think it took us about 2 years before we realized it just wasn't going to work out, because the guy just could not work in a group situation. And I'm not sure of your guys' situation, but if it's similar, you may want to just give it an expiration date, give it 6 months, 12 months, or so forth. And if he just can't deal with it, you've got to set a cutoff date and say, you know what, we've got to move on from here. I hope that helps.
Why do bass players date strippers? Answer: because someone in the relationship has to have a real job. LOL.
I've made more money as a bass player than any stripper ever will.
Hey everybody, thanks so much for watching. That was an awful lot of fun to do that show. Before I go, I just want to give a great big shout out to my friends in Rest Repose. They're going to be hitting the road this summer from June 10th to July 20th. And they're also going to be giving away a PRS Mark Holcomb guitar. And you can win it randomly if you share this flyer with the hashtag Rest Repose giveaway. I'll put some links in the description below where you guys can get that and sign up for it and all that. Just to let you know, they're going to be playing in Pontiac, Michigan on June the 16th, and I am planning on going to that show. So if you live in the neighborhood, you want to hang out and check the band out, I'm probably going to be there too. Hope to see you there. I'll see you guys next time. Take it easy.